My entitled wife and children constantly insulted me after I lost my job. So I reached my breaking point and did something that changed my life forever. I met my wife 20 years ago and we've been married for 15 years. We started dating during our last semester in high school. After college, we both immediately started work. I worked as a software developer at a bank while she worked as a junior financial advisor at an insurance. A year after leaving college, she got pregnant and we both came to the conclusion that we would be better off as a family if she quit her job and would commit to being a stay-at-home mom. The reason being at the time I earned a lot more than she did at the time. We agreed to wait a few years until our son grew a bit older and then she would go back to work. Plan was to only have one kid. Well, things happened and at the moment we have 3 kids. Our marriage was going great until last December. While everyone's marriages around us started getting stale and started crumbling, I felt like ours only grew stronger the longer we stayed together. Our intimate life was great and honestly, for the time being, I couldn't ask for a better wife. She and the kids were the only things I had in my mind. Well, last year my company had some major financial issues and as a result of that, my position got dissolved. I had put sweat and tears to get myself into position, and it just got ripped away from me for no fault of my own. I got offered another job in a different department, but my pay decreased by nearly 40%. As a result, I couldn't afford a lot of the luxuries we currently had. When I told my wife this, she seemed more distraught than me. I reassured her that I'd immediately start work on finding another job with equal or better pay than my last. For the time being, I told her we need to cut on our expenses. Since then, she basically has been treating me like I don't exist. She used to make me lunch to take to work, but when she suddenly stopped doing that, I asked her why and she just told me she didn't feel like it. I didn't question her on it since honestly, it was a tough time for all of us. I just chalked it up to her being stressed. She then slowly stopped showing me any affection. She refused to kiss me goodbye when I went to work. She refused any advances I made towards her, and she refused to go on our usual dates. Her reasoning always being that she wasn't in the mood. I again didn't question her about it, since I thought our financial situation was eating at her. The only time she cared to start conversations with me was to ask if I was getting closer to finding another job. My first child, my son, and my second eldest, my daughter, started following suit. They wouldn't talk to me unless it was asking me for money. They would constantly throw temper tantrums over their extracurricular activities being cancelled whenever I tried talking to them about their behavior. My son almost looks at me with disgust whenever he sees me returning from work. I reached my breaking point last week. It was my birthday, and nobody seemed to care. I didn't bring it up in the hopes that they would realize at some point during the day, but they never did. Or this was some massive prank, and we would all celebrate at the end of the day, but nothing. My daughter even made a SHTYY remark to me about how all her friends got a higher allowance than her. I remember just breaking down into tears that night. I just felt like an afterthought in my own family. It felt like all their love for me was based on how much I earned. I remember my wife rolling over and in an annoyed tone asking what was wrong. I just lost it. I asked her if I even mattered to her at all. I asked her why she's been treating me like a roommate since I changed positions, when the last time she kissed me was, we had intimacy, and so on. She just replied with, "You'll get it when you get a better job." When I get my Mercedes back, had to give it back since I couldn't afford the payments on it anymore. And when Lisa, second child, gets her horse riding lessons back. While still crying, I just told her I wanted a divorce and got up and started packing a suitcase. She told me to stop being a baby and to get back in bed. And maybe this was the reason I lost my job. I just shouted at her to shut the F up. This was the first time in years that I had raised my voice at my wife. I know for a fact my kids heard me shouting and me leaving the house. Since then, I've been staying at a motel about half an hour from our house. Besides my wife sending me a half-effort apologies, I haven't gotten any calls or other texts from my family. I feel worthless. Do I truly mean this little to my family? I actually have an interview with another company planned for next week. I didn't want to give my wife any false hopes, so I didn't tell her anything. If I got the job, I wanted it to be a surprise. I don't feel like even attending the interview anymore. Who am I doing any of this anymore? I feel like if my kids really cared about me even a bit, they would at least give me a call or something. Their lack of communication is making me believe that I might have overreacted here. And I might need to apologize to them for just leaving out of the blue. Should I apologize? I feel really conflicted. I have contacted a divorce lawyer and he is currently drawing up divorce papers as we speak. I honestly never thought our relationship would reach this point. Am I going too far? Am I wrong for this? Update. I could hardly believe it. The intensity of the situation was overwhelming. Feeling the weight of rejection and dejection from my own family, my mind swirled with conflicting emotions. Despite the hurt, a part of me longed for reconciliation, a glimmer of hope that my family's silence might one day turn into understanding. As I sat in the dimly lit motel room, the sound of my phone ringing broke the silence. Tentatively, I answered, expecting the worst. To my surprise, it was my eldest daughter, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "Dad, I just wanted to say I'm sorry," she stuttered, her words heavy with remorse. "I didn't realize how much you were hurting. We all miss you. I miss you." My heart softened at her words, a flicker of hope igniting within me. Perhaps there was a chance for reconciliation after all. With a newfound determination, I decided to attend the upcoming job interview, not just for myself, but for the possibility of rebuilding what was once a loving family. Days turned into weeks as I tirelessly polished my resume, honed my interview skills, and scoured job listings. Finally, an opportunity arose. A position at a prestigious company, one that promised stability and growth. After what felt like an eternity of waiting, the phone call came. A job offer. It was a moment of triumph, a validation of my worth and capabilities. As I accepted the offer, a sense of relief washed over me, knowing that I had secured not just a job, but a new beginning. Amidst the whirlwind of rebuilding my career, the strained relationship with my wife weighed heavily on my mind. Despite the distance that had grown between us, I couldn't shake the lingering hope for reconciliation. As I settled into my new job, I made the difficult decision to reach out to her, to confront the issues that had driven us apart. One evening, after a long day at work, I mustered the courage to call her. The conversation was tense at first, filled with awkward silences and guarded words. Yet as we spoke, a glimmer of understanding began to emerge. We laid bare our frustrations, our fears, and our hopes for the future. It was a painful process, confronting the cracks in our marriage. But with each word spoken, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. For the first time in months, I felt like we were truly communicating, truly listening to each other. In the weeks that followed, we made a concerted effort to rebuild our relationship. We went to counseling. We took long walks together. We shared our dreams and aspirations. It wasn't easy, and there were setbacks along the way, but slowly, ever so slowly, we began to find our way back to each other. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, I watched with cautious optimism as our relationship blossomed anew. We laughed together, we cried together, we rediscovered the love and affection that had once bound us together. Thank you again to those who have listened to me.